Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone and welcome. Today we are going to explore some really important ideas in statistics. Statistics of the world around us and make good decisions. We'll cover several key topics like how things relate to each other, how to compare groups, how to check for fairness in tests, and how to make sure our measurements are good. Chapter 1: Correlation Studies. Understanding correlation in statistics. Correlation is a fundamental concept in statistics. Quantifies the relationship between two or more variables. First developed by Francis Galton in 1885, it remains a key concept in data analysis and research, providing valuable insight into how different factors interact within a data set. So, what exactly is correlation? In simple terms, correlation tells us if two or more things, which we call variables, move together in a related and predictable way. It helps us see how different factors in our data interact. In correlation, there are four things we have to know. The first is variable movement. When we say variable movement, we mean that as one thing changes, the other also tend to change in certain way. Then there is positive correlation. Let's look at positive correlation. This happens when both variables increase together or both decrease together. Think of it like this: if you study more hours, your test score might also go up, both are increasing. Or if you exercise less, your energy level might go down, both are decreasing. They move in the same direction. And then the third, negative correlation. This is the opposite of positive correlation. Here, as one variable increases, the other decreases. For example, as the temperature outside go down, the sales of warm coat usually go up. One goes down, the other goes up. They move in opposite direction. And then we talk no causation. Now, it is very important point. Correlation shows as an association, but it doesn't necessarily mean that one thing causes the other. Just because two things move together doesn't mean one is directly making the other happen. For example, ice cream sales and drowning incident both increase in summer. They are correlated, but ice cream doesn't cause drowning. The hot weather causes both. Types of correlation. We can break down correlation into different types. The first is directional types. We just talked about this: positive, same direction, and negative or opposite direction. And then the second, form types. In form types, there are two kinds. Linear, this means the variable change at a steady rate, and if you plot them on a graph, they would form a straight line. And then non-linear. Here, the correlation isn't a straight line, it might be a curve. And then the second kind of correlation is variable count types. This kind has three types. The first is simple. This is when we look at the relationship between just two variables. And then the second is multiple. This is when we look at how one variable relates to many others at the same time. And then the third is partial. This is a bit more advanced. It is when we look at the relationship between two variables, but we try to remove the influence of the other variable. Next is degree of correlation. We use a number called the correlation coefficient, often written as R, to measure how strong and what direction a linear relationship is. This number range from -1 to +1. +1 or perfect positive correlation. This means the variable move perfectly together in the same direction. If one goes up by a certain amount, the other goes up by a perfectly related amount. -1 perfect negative correlation. This means the variable move in perfect opposite direction. If one goes up, the other goes down by a perfectly related amount. And then 0 or no correlation. This means there is no linear relationship at all between the variable. They don't seem to move together in any predictable straight line way. Next is methods to study correlation. How do we actually find correlation? We can use 4 kind of tools. The first is scatter diagrams. These are graphs where we plot data point for two variables. They help us see if there is a pattern like a straight line going up or down, or no pattern at all. They can also show us outliers, data point that don't fit the general trend. And then we can use Pearson's R. This is the most common method for continuous data like height, weight, temperature, when we expect a straight line relationship. And then the third, we can use Spearman's rule. This is used for data that can be ranked like survey responses, strongly agree, etc., or when the relationship is not a straight line. And the last is correlation metric. If you have many variables, a correlation metric is a table that shows the correlation coefficient between every pair of variables at the same time. It is a quick way to see many relationships. Finally, we come to summary and key takeaways. To sum up correlation, the first is quantifies relationships. It helps us measure how variables are connected, but remember, it doesn't mean one causes the other. The second is diverse pattern. There are different type and strength of correlation, showing various patterns in data. The third is valid interpretation. Using the right method and reporting result correctly is key to getting accurate insight. And then the last is essential tool. Correlation is a vital tool in statistics, research, and for making informed decisions. Next is chapter 2. It is about t-test, understanding the t-test in statistics. The t-test is a crucial statistical hypothesis that used to determine if there is a significant difference between the means of two groups. It is a fundamental tool in inferential statistics, allowing researchers to draw conclusions about population based on simple data. Now, let's see history and background. Origin of the t-test. The t-test was developed by William Seeley Gosset in 1908 while working at Guinness Brewery in Dublin. He published his work under the pseudonym Student to protect the brewery's trade secret, hence its common name, Student's t-test. Okay, now let's see type of t-test. There are different types of t-test, each for a specific kind of comparison. The first is one sample t-test. This is used when you want to compare the average of one group to a known value or a value you expect. The second is independent two-sample t-test. This is used when you want to compare the average of two separate and unrelated groups. And the third is paired sample t-test. This is used when you compare the average from the same group at two different times or from pairs of people who are matched in some way. Okay, now let's see assumption of the t-test. For the t-test result to be accurate and reliable, our data should meet a few conditions called assumption, and there are continuous and normal data. The data we are measuring should be continuous, like height, weight, temperature, and should generally follow a normal distribution, the bell curve we will talk about later. And then random and independent samples. Our group should be chosen randomly, and the people or item in one group should not influence the people or item in the other group except for pair tests where they are related. And then the third is homogeneity of variance. This means that the spread of variability of the data should be roughly the same in both groups we are comparing. Okay, now let's talk about hypothesis and formula. Before we do t-test, we set up two main ideas. The first is null hypothesis. This is our starting point. It says there is no significant difference between the group averages. And then the second is alternative hypothesis. This is what we are trying to prove. It says there is a significant difference. Okay, now let's see performing a t-test. Here, how we generally perform a t-test step. The first is data calculation. First, we calculate the average, how spread out the data, and the number of people or item for each group. The second is t-statistic computation. We then use the formula or more commonly statistical software like SPSS or R to calculate the t-statistic. And then the third, assumption check. Before trusting our result, we check if our data meets the assumption we talk about. The fourth is test selection. We choose if we need a one-tile or two-tile test based on our reset question. Okay, now let's come to interpreting results. Understanding the output of the test is key to drawing meaningful conclusion from your data. If the t-value, larger absolute value, indicates a greater difference relative to variability. And then degrees of freedom, it reflects the sample size and the test design. Then p-value, a p-value less than 0.05 typically indicates a statistically significant difference. Effect size and chi consider for practical significance beyond statistical significance. Okay, now let's come to summary and key takeaways of chapter 2. The first is fundamental comparison. The t-test is essential for comparing two means in statistical analysis. The second is type selection. Choose the correct t-test type based on your data and study design. Next is assumption verification. Verify assumption for valid and reliable statistical result. And then holistic interpretation. Interpret result by considering the statistic value and study context. Okay, now let's come to chapter 3, analysis of variance. The first is introduction to ANOVA, unlocking insight from data. Introduction to ANOVA, unlocking insight from data, developed by the renowned statistician R.A. Fisher in the 1920s. Analysis of variance is a powerful statistical technique. It allows us to efficiently compare the means of 3 or more groups, extending beyond the limitation of the test, which are designed for only 2 groups. Now let's talk about the purpose and application of ANOVA. The first is comparing multiple means. ANOVA is ideal when you need to assess if there are statistically significant differences between the means of multiple population or groups. The second is categorical factors. It is particularly suitable for situations involving one categorical factor that has 3 or more levels of categories. And then the third is diverse application, widely used across various fields, including agriculture for crop yield analysis, manufacturing for quality control, medicine for treatment efficacy, and social science for group behavior studies. Okay, next let's come to formulating hypothesis in ANOVA. The first is null hypothesis. The null hypothesis states that all group means are statistically equal and observed differences are due to random sampling variability. And then alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis proposes that at least one group means is significantly different from the others. ANOVA tells us if a difference exists, not specifically which group differ. Okay, now let's come to exploring types of ANOVA design. The first is one-way ANOVA. It compares mean based on a single categorical factor with multiple levels. Then two-way ANOVA. It examines the influence of 2 independent categorical factors on a dependent variable, including their potential interaction effect. And then the third is more complex design. It beyond one-way and two-way. ANOVA encompasses more intricate design like N-way ANOVA for multiple factor, repeated measure ANOVA for within subject comparison, and MANOVA for multiple dependent variable. Okay, now let's talk about the F statistic, the heart of ANOVA. The core of ANOVA is something called the F statistic. It covers variance ratio. The F statistic is basically a ratio. It compares the variance between groups to the variance between groups. Then the next is interpreting the F values. If the F value is large, it means the differences between our group averages are much bigger than the natural variation within each group. This suggests that the factor we are studying, like fertilizer type, really does have an effect. We compare our calculated F values to a special table, the F distribution table, to see if our result is statistically significant. Now we come to key assumption and limitation of ANOVA. Like the t-test, ANOVA also have assumption. The first is normality. The data within each group should generally follow a normal distribution. If you have a lot of data, small deviation from normality are usually okay. And then homogeneity of variance. The spread of data or variance should be roughly equal across all groups. These are tests like Leven's test to check this. And then independence of observation. Each data point the independent. One measurement should not influence another. We come to summary, the power of ANOVA. To summarize ANOVA, there are 4 summarize. The first is multiple group comparison. It is a super valuable tool for comparing the average values of 3 or more groups at the same time. And then identifying influences. It helps us find out if a specific factor like different treatment or different type of product has a real impact on an outcome. And then assumption verification. Always check the assumption to ensure your results are valid. And then foundation for advanced analysis. ANOVA is a basic step for understanding and doing more complex statistical analysis. Chapter 4, Test Bias and DIF. The first, we talk about deep analysis of bias test and differential item functioning, or DIF. DIF happen when the test question or item works differently from different group of people, even when those groups have the same overall ability. DIF can show that there might be item bias, meaning the question itself is unfair, or that the question is measuring something different across groups. It is important to figure out if the difference is because of real differences in what's being measured or because the item itself is flawed. Okay, then we discuss about exploring the nuance or type of DIF. DIF is not just one thing. There are different types. The first is uniform DIF, the second is non-uniform DIF, and the third benign DIF, and the fourth is adverse DIF. Okay, now let's talk about why undertake DIF analysis. Why is it so important to do DIF analysis? The first is to ensure fairness and equity, and then identifies bias items. The next is improve validity and reliability. The next is support ethical and legal standards. Next, statistical method for DIF detection. There are 4 kinds of method. The first is mental Hansel's method, and then logistic regression, and the third item response theory, and the fourth multiple indicator, multiple cause models. Now let's come to summary and best practice. The summary of this chapter is 1. DIF analysis is essential for finding bias at the question level, making sure tests are fair and valid for everyone. The second, the best way to do this is to combine strong statistical method with careful qualitative reviews. The third, fixing DIF is not only makes tests fairer and more accurate, but also help us follow important legal and ethical rules. And the fourth, since population and what we measure can change over time, it is good idea to keep checking for DIF regularly to keep tests fair. We come to chapter 5, validity and reliability. Talk about validity and reliability in statistics. These are the essential concepts for ensuring measurement equality in research. They form the foundation for trustworthy and meaningful statistical analysis, ensuring data is consistent and accurately measure intended attributes. Let's talk about what is reliability. When we talk about reliability, we talk about consistency. Reliability refers to the consistency and repeatability of measurement under the same condition. And then the types. Key types include test rates, iterator, internal consistency, and split half reliability. And also we talk about coefficient. The reliability coefficient range from 0 random error to 1 perfect consistency. Now we come to what is validity. When we talk about validity, we will talk about accuracy. Validity addresses the accuracy of a measurement, whether it truly measures what it is supposed to measure. And then also we talk true reflection. Valid data reflect the true attribute, free from bias or irrelevant influencing factor. And then for the example, a scale consistency off by 2 kg is reliable but lacks validity, as it doesn't provide the true weight. And then categories. There are types include content, construct, criterion related, internal and external validity. Okay, now let's talk about reliability versus validity. The key differences. Reliability focus on consistency and then can be achieved even with inaccurate measurement. Then validity focus on accuracy, requires reliability to be present first. Okay, let's talk about types of reliability. In reliability, there are 4 kinds. The first is test raters, and then iterator, and then internal consistency, and then split halves. Now let's talk about types of validity. There are 4 types of validity. The first is content validity, and then criterion related validity, and construct validity, and the last is phase validity. Okay, now let's come to assessing reliability and validity. When we want to assess reliability, we can use Cronbach's alpha for internal consistency, and then intract-class correlation for iterator agreement, and kappa statistic for categorical agreement. While when we want to know validity, we will correlation analysis for criterion related validity, and then factor analysis for construct validation, and expert review for content validity. Now we come to chapter 6, normal distribution. Okay, now let's talk about understanding the normal distribution in statistics. The normal distribution, often called the bell curve, is a fundamental concept in statistics. It describes how many natural phenomena are distributed and forms the basis for various statistical analysis. The key concept of normal distribution, definition, and properties. We talk about symmetrical bell shape. The curve is perfectly symmetrical around its center. Then we have mean, median, and mode. All three measures of central tendency coincide at the peak of the curve. And then we have also asymptotic to x-axis. It means that the curve extends infinitely in both directions without ever touching the x-axis. And then we have total area under curve. The entire area beneath the curve equals to representing 100% probability. Okay, now let's discuss about the standard normal distribution. A special case of the normal distribution where the mean is 0 and the standard deviation is 1. It simplifies probability calculation by converting any normal variable into z-score. With the formula, this standardization allows to use the universal z-tables to find probabilities. Now let's talk about finding probabilities. The probabilities of an event correspond to the area under the normal curve between specific values. Z-scores convert raw data points into standard deviation from the mean, enabling the use of standard normal tables to find these areas. The next is practical application. The normal distribution is widely used across various fields. Its assumption underpin many statistical tests, allowing researchers to make inference about population from sample data. For example, if university exam scores are normally distributed, we can predict the probability of students scoring within specific range. Finally, from the normal distribution, we have some summary. The first is central to statistics. It is fundamental concept for understanding data and making inferences. The second, defined by mean and standard deviation. Its shape is determined by its average and how spread out the data is. It is a symmetric bell-shaped curve. Then, empirical rule. This rule gives us quick and easy estimates of probabilities. Then, standardization, z-scores. Converting to z-scores allow us to calculate precise probabilities for any normal distribution, and then widely applicable. You will find it is used in almost every field from science and business to social science.